So here's the deal. It was a beautiful night. It was Saturday, June 26, 1965. Sultry summer evening, great for racing, and the fans were beginning to pour into Pine Speedway. Everything was looking great except for one thing. That is, the lead group, the Cutdowns, went on strike. Well, so what, you say? What's the big deal? There have been 5,965 tracks in the United States, and judging by the people in this room, I think it's fair to say that all of them are populated by some fairly serious nutcases. So what should be so surprising about strikes? Really nothing, and it shouldn't be surprising to consider that most of the time they don't work. Gosh, at Norwood, just a couple of years before, the Cutdowns had gone on strike, and they got thrown out forever, and the NASCAR mods were brought in. But you know something? June 26, 1965 was different. And the reason it was different is that Bob Cloutier, Don McLaren, Ollie Silva, Bentley Warren, and all those racers who choreographed that strike had something up their sleeve. They had a SWAT team. They had the 3 M's. Now, the 3 M's were hardly the long-haired, pot-smoking musketeers that you'd think about in 1965. In fact, we've met one of them already. In the class of 2000, we inducted Charlie Elliott, the great Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine track builder. Charlie was the M for muscle. Next came the M for money. That was provided by a young guy named Ken Smith, who had started working for a bank. And fortunately for all concerned, he decided to park his rather scary Studebaker race car and work with the Super Modified Club to get it going. Well, he sure did get it going. And he got his career going too. And today he's president of the Pentucket Bank in Haverhill, Massachusetts, and just a wonderful civic leader in that part of Massachusetts. The third M was for mouth. And that was very amply provided by a young teenager named Russ Conway. Now this guy was an energy machine with a typewriter. And he really got a hold of this Super Modified Club, become NESMRA, and he really made something of it. He is, after all, the guy who was the first to use the now world-renowned phrase, "tell your friends." It turns out that Russ, too, did very well in his real career on the side, and he's now a nationally known journalist, a best-selling author, and also a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Well, these little guys, this Silva Cloutier team with Conway, Smith, and Elliott, this little seed started to grow. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew. It went so far, in fact, that it changed the direction of racing really all over the eastern part of the country. And it's to be noted for many attributes, certainly for technological aggressiveness, wide open racing, giving these local racers national name. Certainly, too, for the great sense of community that it had and helpfulness for people who got hurt, for the friends in its community. Absolutely, a habit of drama, whether it was school bus races with topless women as drivers, or whether it was the Star Classic, everything was the best. Tell your friends. But you know something? The thing that NESMRA will be remembered for the most was the duration. These guys didn't go promote a race or two and then go back to television and back to their jobs. They kept going for 25 years, 1,000 shows, 37 racetracks, 6 states, from Florida to Bathurst, New Brunswick, and at that speedway, the third turn borders on the North Pole. Their last race, finally, happened in 1990 at Canaan, New Hampshire. It's quite possible that 2 or 3 guys working part-time have had as great an impact on this sport somewhere in this country, but it's quite possible that no one ever did. And now I'd like to just take a little bypass here and read you something that Pete Newsham just gave me that's to one of these inductees. Russ, congratulations on your induction into the Near Hall of Fame. It is very gratifying to witness a friend receive this kind of recognition, and I can think of no one more deserving than you for this honor. Over the years, I have come to appreciate all the qualities that make you an extraordinary person, Russ, and the acclaim that you receive now demonstrates that others also recognize you as a leader amongst your peers. I am so very proud of what you have achieved, but most importantly, I am proud to be counted among those fortunate enough to call you friend. Continued success and good health to you, and here's hoping that you enjoy a wonderful day on this very special occasion. Your friend, Bobby Orr. And so now I would like to ask Ken Smith and Russ Conway, my friends, even though they gave me too many unwarranted black flags over the years, up here for their permanent induction into the New England Hall of Fame.
All right. I'll be brief. I have to be, because Russ is next. Thank you, Lou. Wow. That introduction was real nice, even though you did stretch the truth quite a bit. And it made Russ and I look like a couple of angels from the old Nesmer gang. Angels, maybe Charlie Elliott and I might qualify someday as an angel, but Russ, no way, not ever. I don't think so. Seriously, let me say today is a very special day for both Russ and I. We both feel honored and very privileged to be included among all the many great individuals, many of which we looked up to as our heroes, that are already in the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame. Before I go too far, we both want to offer our sincere congratulations to today's worthy inductees and to all the NERA folks who made today one of the very best days of our lives. Please accept our sincere thanks for all you do for our wonderful sport. It is very much appreciated. One more important thank you goes to the third member of our Nesmer management team. I'm speaking about the Hall of Fame member from the class of 2000, Charlie Elliott. Charlie, we wouldn't be here today without your guidance and your assistance along the way. You were always there for us, as well as always there for Nesmer. For that, we thank you. Thank you very much, Charles. Now, last year I stood before this group and told you how very special and how strong the bond was that our racing family has shared over all these years. We really didn't know how special it was at the time we were active. But believe me, it was very special. And if it wasn't, we wouldn't be here today. Back then, we were busy having fun, working long hours, getting very little sleep, receiving very little financial reward, and making those difficult sacrifices just to be at the track. However, how exciting and enjoyable, especially when you did well. Well, today, because of this, I have many stories and warm racing memories, and I'm sure you do too, and you've been telling them most of this afternoon. So I encourage you all to spread the word about this event. Never, never give up your interest as well as your support for the vintage clubs like NERA, and attend their events during the season. You are the reason that this is special, and don't forget it. 2 quick examples of what I've been talking about. For the last 3 years, Russ and I have helped to promote and organize a race's annual reunion on the grounds of the Old Pine Speedway in Groveland, Mass. Close your eyes with me for a moment. Flashback. It's a warm Thursday evening in summer of 1948. That's 58 years ago. Can you see him? Yes, it's Wild Bill Randall. Out in front, wheeling the famous 21 McLeod Offie to another feature win at the Tiny Pines Oval. Just nosing out his teammate, Johnny Thompson, driving the number 20 McLeod Offie. While Johnny Kay, Red Cummings, Joe Sestilio, and Oscar Rillen crossed the finish line in a blanket, rounded out the top 6. Wow, what a finish, bellows the track announcer Ken Ash, who was also broadcasting the feature event over radio station WHAV in Haverhill. Back then, we were on the radio. Can't do that today. Okay, wake up, open your eyes. I know those were the golden days of auto racing, but back to this reunion at the Pines, which was big, very big. By 10 o'clock in the morning, the grounds and the huge tent were nearly filled with race cars, vendors, concession, and of course people. And it stayed that way until the sun went down. The magic spirit and the passion for old-time auto racing was in the air all day. More than 3,000 people showed up to relive those memories of a grand old racetrack that hadn't run a race since 1973. This second example I want to briefly relate. Just a couple of weeks ago, we got together at the urging of Paul and Mary Ann Richardson to honor Racer Russ, my partner over here, for his 1,000 nights of promoting and running NESMA races. Well, that day was another one that I won't ever forget. More than 300 of our old NESMA racing family showed up on a Sunday afternoon in a snowstorm to share the magic spirit and racing passion that filled the room well into the evening hours. On display outside of the restaurant that day, collecting snowflakes, was Lee Allen's sleek twister cut down from the 60s, and one of Ollie Silver's famous super modifieds. Ollie's car had not raced in 28 years. Yet 15 interested racing folks recently contributed $1,500 each and purchased the car so that we and many others could relive our fond memories and keep the spirit of the Big O alive. Yes, the spirit of racing is still very much alive, and only a large racing family like all of us here today can experience that feeling after all these years. Thanks again for making today a highlight for me. And Russ, you only have a couple of minutes to say, wait a minute, there's even more, and be sure and tell your friends. Thank you.
Good job. I want to thank the selection committee and congratulate all the inductees as well. I want to thank all of you people here today. All of the drivers, car owners, crews, officials, media, and especially the fans who supported all kinds of our NESMA events. I want to thank the people from Lebec Rouge that are here today at Hampton Beach, because that's NESMA headquarters south, if you ever want a good bar. Anyway, in 1999, I went into the Hockey Hall of Fame with Wayne Gretzky. And today, it's better than the Blues Brothers, I get to go in with Ken Smith. I'd like to know, why is it Wayne Gretzky has a full head of hair and is the president coach of his club, the Phoenix Coyotes, and Ken Smith has a full head of hair and is the president and CEO of his bank, and I have virtually no hair and I have no job and I'm almost bankrupt?
That's the truth.
Thank you, Ken. Charlie, for allowing me to be a part of the team for 25 seasons. You guys have really been a lot of fun, and you helped out a young kid get older and grow up. And that's it for the end of being serious. Like Bentley Warren said when he heard about this, it's about time you guys got indicted. It's lucky over the years we didn't get grabbed. You know, Charlie Elliott, with Charlie, we came up with one of our sayings a while back. anything can happen, and it usually does. For example, we used to have a spectator race at the end of our nights, both at Star and at Hudson, and one night we got about 20 cars out, and fans would sign a release, get a helmet, drive what you want. Last car comes out, it's a beautiful brand new Pinto. And the flagman calls me on the headset, Ed Boyer, I think it was, and he says, you know, that's a girl in that car? I said, really? We tell the announcer, you know the policy at Hudson Speedway, ladies before gentlemen, and we put her right on the pole. She never made it to the second turn. Pinball, I mean, she looked like a top going around, hit all four corners. So we're doing the payoff. We're at the payoff window. All of a sudden, this girl comes up on the side, and she says to me, is there anybody around here with a wrecker? And I said, a wrecker? Yeah, I was in that. I don't know if you saw that last race, but I was in that, and I need somebody to tow me home. I said, where do you live? Derry, New Hampshire. I said, I think we can arrange that. Yeah, my father and mother are going to kill me. And I said, what do you mean? They gave me that car for a graduation present Friday night. Of course, you know, you had to have everybody on the same page. And we were on the same page most of the time. Dick Batchelor told this story the other day. You know, something happened at the track, and he got nowhere with me, he got nowhere with the flagman, he got nowhere with Ken. So he goes to look up Charlie, try to plead his case, and Charlie had a dog named Chubby. He was a hound dog, and Batch is standing there, and he puts his helmet down, brand new Bell helmet, and he's telling Charlie, geez, these guys screwed me, blah, blah, blah. Chubby, the dog, looks at Batch, and all of a sudden he lifts his leg and pisses right in the helmet. Of course, Charlie, what people didn't know, Charlie had another pet for 1 year. He lived in the Everglades in the middle of the winter, and he came back one year with an alligator. And this is a true story. The alligator was a little alligator. It was only about that big. Of course, by September, the alligator was 3.5, 4 feet long. He kept it in a pen out back by the trailer at the Speedway. So we had Chubby the dog and Choppers the alligator. Well, one night, his son comes up, and I'm up in the judge's tower up at the top. We got the Star Classic, the Nesmer Classic going on that night, and my God, he's looking at me frantic. He says, Russ, Russ, Russ. I said, what is the matter? He's in a panic. He said, the alligator, yeah? It escaped. I said, here we are in Epping, New Hampshire on a September night. How do you explain to 3,500, 4,000 people there's an alligator on the loose? We paid good money over the years. That was a tradition. And when we were going to pay our millionth dollar in prize money, which was about 1971, we wanted to make a big deal out of it. So finally, we decide to have a party, which is nothing new for Nesmer. And I said, let's have a cake. And Johnny Busick, the great Bruins Hall of Fame hockey player, was a good friend of mine. He knew this baker just off of Route 1 near Boston. And I says, I want to get a cake made. Yeah, well, go see Godfrey. I go and see him, and I said, geez, we'd like a cake. Well, how big is the cake? I make anniversary cakes, birthday cakes, wedding cakes. I said, nah, we want this cake. It's for about 3,500, 4,000 people. A cake? You know how many eggs that's going to take? I said, yeah, we want a cake. Well, we'll see what we can do. It'd be a great gimmick. So anyways, I get the Boston Globe to take a picture of the cake. We get the cake made, put it on a bunch of plats. Charlie shows up with a flatbed truck, trailer, put it on the trailer. He's going up 95. Can you picture this? Here's this cake, 6.5 feet tall, as wide as this stage. He's going 15 miles an hour up the slow lane with a cake. So we get it to Star. We're going to have this big cake. It's all in the papers, the pictures in the paper. The next morning, at the crack of dawn, Charlie wakes up in the trailer. And he says, what the hell is going on out there? It was like Alfred Hitchcock and the Birds. Every crow, every sparrow in a 10-mile radius showed up in the barn, and his Charlie running out there honking the horn on the truck, get the hell out of there, blah, blah, blah. The baker had given us this big pot, this barrel almost, full of frosting, just like you'd have a carpenter would have plaster in the side of a wall. Charlie spent the next 4.5 hours going over the cake, going over the whole thing. What people didn't know that night, here we are living in this day and age about bacteria and everything. Here we are, these birds that got at this cake, not only did they peck away at the cake, they pooped all over it. You know, it was fun having different drivers over the years. I mean, and I love their names. You know, how many people can you go and tell one of your friends, one of your employees, his name is Bugs? I mean, really, Bugs. We had Bugs, we had Swifty, we had Punky, we had Fats, Johnny Tripp. I always want to know, where the hell is Johnny Tripp going? And then we had Dynamite, Ollie Silver, and Big Daddy Don McLaren, and the Golden Bear, Eddie West, he's over there. Ricochet Richardson. What driver in his right name would want to be named Ricochet? We had Bud Shenley, Jim Beam, and Jack Daniels. We had, these guys came out of the mountains, and they really did. We had, we had Buck Moses, Chug-a-Lug Moses, and Royal Moses. And Chug-a-Lug didn't get nicknamed because he drank a lot. He was always in the friggin' way. We told him to go back to the mountain. We promoted cars and stars and fights and feuds, and if there wasn't a fight and a feud, we made one up. We had a match race once between Ollie Silver and Don McLaren. Got them out on the track, all ready to go. They're side by side, and it was the last race of the night, and guess what? Mysteriously, the lights went out. Boy, we got to hype that one for another week. We went out and promoted it. They crashed and banged, and sparks flying and everything, and it was a hell of a race. And somehow, we kept on going. We ran all sorts of divisions with our Nesmer events, all sorts of drivers. We brought Richard Petty to New England. Dale Earnhardt won 10 out of 12. Buddy Baker, Cale Yarborough. Anybody at Stafford would remember Tim Richmond winning in a modified. We had all sorts of drivers. We even had rats. Rat Lane, Barn Rat Devaney, Wally Pankrats. And I always got to figuring out, how the hell did they land at Star Speedway? Well, did you ever spell star backwards? But I will end with one classic story. One big one. Charlie Elliott decides to run a fair when we're running the World Series. He brings a guy in by the name of Joe Gerlach. Joe Gerlach, he jumps out of a balloon into a sponge. Now, I mean into a sponge. And so he gives you one free jump. And so I go to Manchester, New Hampshire, asking for the tallest building in town. They say the state building is 19 stories. I said, no, that's too high. You got another one? Amoskeag National Bank, it's 7 stories. This is perfect. Why? Well, I got this guy who wants to jump out of a window into a sponge. It's dollar days. And every Wednesday they close the street. Big main street in Manchester, New Hampshire, Elm Street. Well, sure enough, we set this thing up. Don Anderson, he was at the Union later, set it up with the president of the bank. I'm at Thompson putting out flyers, go flying up Route 93. Londonderry, New Hampshire, I get nailed in the speed trap. Cop pulls me over, he says, you know, the old story, you go into a fire, look, I got this promotion going on in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Going to be a lot of people there. It was kind of a rush. What kind of promotion? Well, this guy's jumping out of the 7th floor window with an Amoskeag National Bank into a sponge. The cop looks at me and he says, don't go anywhere. About 5 minutes later, the other cop pulls up right in front of me, cuts me off. He's in the front, the other cop's in the back. They're both talking. He comes over to me, and he looks at me, and he says, "Tell this guy what you just told me." I said, "Wow, this guy's jumping into a sponge." "Somehow, I don't think this is going to happen." I said, "Why don't you guys come? You'll see." "Yeah, okay, we'll follow you." So here I am, 2 New Hampshire State Police cruisers follow me. The place is packed downtown. Get there, there's 2,000-3,000 people in the street. The sponge is in the middle of the street. You walk in, here's Joe Gerlach in his white jumpsuit. The president gets cold feet. He says, "Wonder if he misses the sponge. What are the legal ramifications?" Now we got no place to jump. Find a building up the street. Sure enough, around the corner they go. They drag the sponge up. 2,000 people following them. Carlton Fisk, the former Red Sox catcher, he shows up. "What's going on?" "Guys jumping out of the building into a sponge." "Really? I gotta see this." Goes up. They're on the corner. They're announcing in a phone booth, "And Joe Gerlach's getting up on the top of the building. He's going to jump into a sponge." And just like you'd see, sure enough, he jumps into the sponge. Boom. The cops, I see the 2 state cops, and they say, "You know, that was pretty good." He ended up at Foxborough Stadium jumping for Billy Sullivan. But we promoted one race once that nobody knew what they were going to see. It was the last hurrah. This is certainly the last hurrah for us for today. Thank you very much, and this is a real big thrill. Thank you very much.
You know, one good thing about being into the Hall of Fame, you're in it for life. They never can take it away from you. But after hearing what Russ did, I'm not so sure about that anymore.